Hey, everybody. It is I, Hope Giselle, and I am coming at you all with another episode of Can We Talk podcast. Now, I know some of y'all are listening to this like, girl, where was our episode last week? And I got to tell y'all, like, life has been happening for the kid in the best of ways, okay? So if you are watching this on the Patreon or if you're just listening to this on the car because you decided that you want to spend them $6, it's just $6. It's literally just $6. I'm cussing you out in your radio in your car on your way to your job about $6 because I'm pressed for it. Just saying. But anyway, if you are somebody who was upset about missing last week's episode, I'm sorry, y'all, but the kid has the world opened up for herself, and I had to make some adjustments. And so we are still going to be doing bi-weekly episodes. I promise y'all, I'm going to give y'all an episode next week to make up for the one that we missed this week. And today's guest is going to be a special little treat for y'all. Okay, she going to be a little treat for y'all, so y'all can get off my back about missing one episode. Dang. Without further ado, today's episode includes somebody who I am, one, inspired by, two, I just think that she's an amazing overall human being, and three, she's one of the most talented people that I think I've ever come across and have been adjacent to for a large part of my life. I've always been like 3 degrees of separation away from this lady. Like, it's really interesting. But I'm super happy that we were able to connect, and now she's on the show and she's here to just chit chat with me for a little bit. And her name, some of y'all might know it, some of y'all might not, but if you don't, then get to know it. Miss Frenchie Davis. How you doing, babe?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thanks for asking me to be on.
Child, thank you for accepting. It took us a minute. It's a week.
It
It was a long road to get here. And we looked at this conversation was supposed to be so many different conversations before it just
I
came
know.
to the most simplest of conversations. And so I'm just happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're in good spirits, and seemingly in good health. And we can just talk and just give the people what they want, which is our business. They want all of our business. So for the people who don't know who Frenchie Davis is, in your own words, can you just give us a synopsis of who you are?
um, Pretty concisely, I'm just the Black girl who loves to sing, and I love music, and I love education, and grew up in Inglewood, California. Studied music and theater at Howard University. Performed in a bunch of Broadway shows. If you're old enough, you probably saw me on American Idol 100 years ago, or The Voice 50 years ago. And now I'm working on my master's degree in history and teaching, and I'm still singing and just living life.
First and foremost, master's degree. Can we talk about them and how annoying they are? Because low key,
It's so much work. You know what I have become kind of annoyed with is, like, how all these women who work at universities or on college campuses who have been caught blackfishing, or passing for women of color when they're really not. And these women don't even have the credentials, and it's amazing how being white adjacent or racially ambiguous, how it suddenly erases a lot of, like, you know the bureaucratic rigmarole that I feel that, like, Black women scholars have to go through to get their foot in the door in these educational institutions. It's crazy.
I agree. I think that with the amount of people that are getting caught, and what's funny and interesting to me is the amount of white or racially ambiguous women, right, that are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it says a lot about the benefits of what it means to be a Black woman in theory, but not in
Well,
that.
I mean, the root of it is that there's more social capital in being a light-skinned or racially ambiguous woman of color than there is in being a basic ass looking white woman.
Essentially. And they've made peace with that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that men on both sides, be it white, Black, or indifferent, have also made peace with the idea that while I know that this girl is Emily and she lives in the middle of Beaufort, Kentucky, I'm going to treat her like her name is Alexa and she comes from somewhere in Belize because that makes me feel better about myself. Because if she was willing to pay for it, I'm willing to pretend like it, that's what it is. And we gonna move through this thing, and we're gonna just divide and conquer with all of our racial ambiguity, and then have this blonde hair, blue eyed child that everybody's gonna wonder where the fuck it came from. And so, I for me, for the life of me, I don't understand. To be perfectly honest, I don't understand the appeal of everything about racial ambiguity being beautiful on everybody except the women who actually represent those things, right? Like outside of the fact that we already have issues like intercommunally as darker skinned women, as genuinely Black women, as women who are racially ambiguous legitimately, right? We already have enough issues in the community of women, right? Talking amongst ourselves about those things. And then here you go, being an Emily popping in and being like, hey, I just want to borrow this for a second. And also I'm going to have a couple of those wigs. Let me buy a couple of these Fashion Nova dresses that I would never wear, but because it's for the culture, I'm going to grab a couple of those too. And a pair of Nikes that I would never own or wear outside of my Instagram and go, right? Like, and it's one of those things where it's just like this ready-made Black cultured version of what it means to be a woman is so acceptable, and it's so fashion forward, and it's so like nuanced and bevied when it's done by everybody except the women who actually make the culture what it is, right?
Well, I'm sorry, finish what you were saying.
No, I was gonna, we're seen as ghetto, but then they do it and it's like the newest trend.
Well, part of the problem, I think, is that we have to have a reckoning within our own community first. Like, we have to stop shaming Black people who gatekeep. And we have to, we can't heal something that we continue to be in denial about. And that is, it can't become a combative conversation every time we start trying to talk about colorism. And that is often what happens. I wrote something on my Facebook about how, it's really interesting that, like a woman like Amanda Seales, who I respect, but she, or even, Angela Ray, and women
Right.
like Angela Ray and Amanda Seales, they are allowed to be outspoken and loud, and the Black girl with the attitude. But then, Black women who look, unambiguously Black, then they get categorized as angry Black women or ghetto, and it's something negative. And I remember when I wrote about that, what is the one of the blogs, Jason Lee's blog, yes, they screenshotted it and then posted this whole thing, and then created this whole narrative like I'm jealous. And my thing is like, we can't keep accusing Black girls of being jealous every time we talk about colorism, because the gag is, by accusing a Black woman of being jealous when she talks about colorism, you're proving the fucking point. You're proving the fucking point. Because what exactly is there to be jealous of if y'all don't get no fucking extra privilege?
Right.
And so the problem is that we have to have a reckoning in our own community, and it can't be every time we start talking about colorism, here come the light skin brigade gaslighting us into being jealous and other bullshit. We have to do that, and we have to stop shaming Black people who gatekeep, because that has opened the door for this blackfishing bullshit.
I agree. I think that when you talk, a lot of the reason that we can't talk about these things is because a lot of the time people are so happy that somebody Black got through the door, that for a lot of them it has nothing to really do with the jealousy. It's like, well, damn, somebody's saying it and they listening to her, so like, let's just let it be. You know what I'm saying? And there are parts of me that understand that. I get it. Somebody has to say it, and if they're the person that was allowed to sit at the table, then why not let them say it, no matter what their skin color is? But I think not about the fact that they're saying it, right? It's about the simple fact that if I were to say the same thing, I would be dismissed, right? No matter what my sites are, no matter, I could write it down in APLA format and have all of the academic words. I could literally do it on a doctorate level, but I'm always going to be perceived as somebody who is coming at it from an emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I am really hostile, and the way that it's perceived comes off as very aggressive, right? Whereas literally you can have an Rye, or like you said, Amanda Seals is my dog sometimes, because sometimes she be off base. But Amanda is my girl, but like they can literally sit on their Instagrams and scream at you for 14 minutes. Like legitimately scream at you for 14 minutes and be like, y'all need to get it together. Like Amanda regularly disrespects white women all the time, like to their face, like just like take that.
Which
And
I don't mind. I don't mind that.
Disrag them, girl, disrag them for all of us, for the culture. But my thing is, it's not going to be perceived the same way as if Leslie Jones got on her Instagram profile and said the same thing. It wouldn't be perceived the same way if Angela Bassett, who was well respected in the industry, got on her profile and said the same thing. It's not perceived the same way when Monique gets on her profile.
I was just thinking about Monique. I was just thinking while you were talking, I was thinking about her. Because then there's the whole layer of fat girls. And my thing is like, like we can't have it both ways. Says the bisexual in the room. But we can't continue to devalue and disrespect fat Black women and then get on social media and be like, oh, I love Stacey Abrams. Like you can't do that. You can't use us for everything that we've given to this fucking culture. Going back to the Ma Rainey's and the Bessie Smiths. And I loved Viola's portrayal. But what was wrong with just casting a fat Black girl? What is the problem? And why are we only selecting 2 or 3 and deciding, okay, that those are the fat Black girls, those are the fat Black girls we giving? It's there's like a layer of shit for like, unambiguous Black women, and then there's a whole nother layer for fat Black women. And that is and I find it really interesting that everybody wants to, celebrate Stacey Abrams in the street. And it's like, and they do it to Black women in general, where, white people want to tweet about how Black women saved the country, but then y'all don't get out here and do no actual work for the protection of Black women. And it's like, y'all can't be out here talking about I love Stacey Abrams and you're just sitting back passively while we continue to disrespect the fuck out of fat Black girls.
But I think that there's a layer too, because oftentimes the fat Black women that society is told it's okay to publicly and out loud are flat Black women that are not thrust into this idea or this space where their sexuality is even a part of the conversation, right? Their sex appeal is not a part of the conversation. So when we're talking about loving Stacey Abrams, we're talking about loving the work that she's doing. We're talking about her intellect. We're talking about everything other than acknowledging the fact that she's also
right
beautiful
to be a whole sexual being. And we're still struggling with it. And I mean, for me, it's been particularly interesting just to watch how we societally process these things, because it's like, I look at Lizzo, who I love, and it's really beautiful to see her be able to have that freedom. But it's also a door that I know I helped open. And it's also sometimes heartbreaking to see her be celebrated for the same shit that I spent the first 10, 15 years of my career being shamed for. And maybe because I chose to wear my hair short and nappy, maybe because I was openly queer, I don't know. But it is interesting, you know.
But I was just having a conversation, like before we got on here, I was legitimately just having this conversation with some of the folks on Patreon. And I made the case for the idea that, don't get me wrong, Lizzo is very entertaining. Do I think that she's always talented, or do I think that I would give her that title? Not necessarily. She's
a great, listen, let me tell you something. What I love about her is like, she's a great songwriter, and that's a gift. That's a gift. Like Whitney Houston was, I mean, to me, she's like, other than Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha, she is the voice. But she, she never, I mean, wrote her own music. And with that voice, she didn't have to. But the point that I'm making is that there are people who are born to be singers. I believe I was born to be a singer. You know what I mean? And then there are people who really have the gift for telling stories with their words. And I'm great at that. I just haven't perfected it into songwriting. I'm great with my words. Songwriting is the ability to say a lot of shit with a little amount of words. And I'm superfluous as fuck, so I'm still working on that. But Lizzo's an amazing songwriter. And I do think that she is talented. But it's, like I said, it's interesting, to just to see like someone be celebrated for like the shit I've been doing this whole 20 years, and spent the first, like I said, 10, 15 of them being shamed for it. This whole idea that that fat Black women aren't allowed to be sexual.
So a clarification, I know that there are some fat Black women that listen to the show and they're gonna be like, Hope, how dare you say she's not talented? Let me be very clear. I think that there is a difference between folks who I entertain and folks who I feel like have a natural gift and this talent that just oozes. Like, there are some people, when we look at them, we like, ooh, she's so talented. Right. And I don't have to know the ins and outs of the business. I don't have to know like what goes on behind the scenes. I can look at you and there's talent that oozes off of you. Right. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming, and I got it. And when I see Lizzo, I see a cash cow for white people who want to engage in and endorse what they believe the culture wants to see, because they think that it's, and it also,
and I think it is. I think in some ways it justifies or affirms their fetishization of fat Black women.
Because that's where I was going with that point. I think that it's a lot of people that have stepped into this realm of, I like it. And so because I like it and I'm sick of like pretending like I don't like it, we're going to promote this in a way so that I can say the things that I like openly, by making y'all feel like it's now okay. It's the same conflict that we had back in the day before Lil Wayne was eating pussy left and right. Men would not dare open that they were, doing that. Like that, it was like a thing that when we were growing up, a lot of men were like, well, I don't eat no pussy, I don't need it. And so then it got to the point where you had all of these Black male celebrities that were like, well, I'm doing it, and I'm sick of pretending like I'm not doing it. So we finna make this song, and y'all niggas finna start eating pussy out loud, because I'm sick of talking about conversations. And I feel like that's the same thing that started to happen with fat Black women, where it's just like, we doing it. We having sex with them. We loving them. They living up in our house and doing all of the things that these skinny women are doing. And
they fetishize trans women the same way.
Child, don't even get me.
And it's like, I was talking to one of my trans sisters. I said, sis, welcome to womanhood. Straight men are trash. They fetishize the fuck out of all of us. Fat girls, trans girls, dark skinned girls.
Dark skin, yes.
I have girlfriends who are having conversations with their daughters, preparing them for the very real possibility that they're going to encounter boys and men who will sexualize them, who will fetishize them, but will never love them openly or publicly.
Those are the conversations that I don't think that you get a chance to have early. And I think that out of all the conversations that people are like, oh, what do you wish that you would have known, like as a young, queer person, da 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 da. And I'm like, as a young trans woman, I wish that I would have known that my capacity for love would be deemed on how passable I could be. And even then, it wouldn't save me from the idea I would never be deemed as worthy enough to be seen in public with the man that I love. And so one, I mean, I'm really happy that mothers, whether they're cis or trans, are having those conversations with young girls, because those are the conversations that people, folks like you and I, we didn't get that conversation growing up. It was just,
Right.
be a strong Black woman, you know, and any man who can't deal with it, he's a, you know, he's a simp, he's a weak ass, you know, person, and he wasn't worthy of your time. And it's just like, yeah, I can sit in that. But also when I'm at home by myself on that random Tuesday and it get real cold and I'm thinking about how lucky the day was, it would be nice to just have somebody here.
Yeah, you know, I feel like the biggest part of my growth and evolution as a fat Black woman who wants to love herself fully and unapologetically and has tried to be really intentional about that. I feel like part of that journey has been making my peace with being alone.
Mm.
You know, because I'm not doing all this work to be letting emotionally broken penis up in my pussy. Or strap, for that matter. And the reality is that those of us who are really trying to do the work, we have to make our peace with being by ourselves. So to each other, they say, "Oh, that's why you can't keep no man." Like, like the measure of my value as a woman is my ability to keep a nigga. Are you fucking kidding me? First of all, they said he who finds a wife finds a good thing. They never said shit about finding no husband. These niggas need us to be great. And that's why they working so hard to gaslight us into thinking we need them. So let's start there. Second of all, what that says to me is that there are a large majority of women who are more afraid of being alone than they are of being in a relationship that doesn't value the wholeness of who they are.
Self-admitted.
And I'm telling you, sis, that coming to term, like that sitting with that aloneness, that's where your peace resides. I'm telling you. Because the real thing is worth waiting for. That's what I've decided. The real thing is worth waiting for. And I have enough self-work to do in this alone time. But what I'm not going to do, and especially after, you know, I'm in week 12 of healing from my hysterectomy surgery. And it has been a process. And I would say the emotional healing has been the most difficult. And grieving the loss of my ability to have children. And, you know, having to, you know, just, it's so interesting. Like, one of my childhood best friends is a trans woman. And so we talk a lot about our similarities. And we were talking about this weird thing that impacts both trans and cis women, where our anatomy is so often projected onto how other people define our womanhood unfairly, you know. And a lot of cis women who've had this surgery, you know, we have struggles with how we define our womanhood, and we, you know, have to work through a lot of that, you know. And you know, they removed my uterus and my cervix through my vagina, so the stitches inside of my vagina are just now dissolving. So I'm not even physically capable of having sex until after June. And, you know, going through this process of letting my body heal and healing my mind and my, you know, my heart, I don't want to, like, I got a virgin pussy now that with experience. I don't want to, I do not want to let someone who's broken or incapable of loving the fullness of who I am into my situation. And I'm still like, so eventually I'm gonna have to get laid. So once I'm healed enough, and I'm still like soul searching on how I'm gonna navigate that while protecting myself and protecting my heart space. And so it's just, the tunnel might be shorter because after the scar tissue heals, like the depth of my vagina might be different. So I have to relearn myself sexually. It's a journey. And I'm in therapy once a week. I'm thinking about starting a support group for women who've never had children and who have had to have this surgery. And so I feel like I'm working so hard on healing that I don't have space for people who aren't trying to do the same work on themselves. And I'm in the process of coming to terms with the aloneness that may accompany that.
I think, and I'm really happy that you brought up those similarities and that sameness, because I think that as somebody who is preparing to get SRS, sexual reassignment surgery, for people who don't know the terminology, those are a lot of the things that I've been kind of sort of gearing up and preparing myself. Is that, like, as somebody who, I feel like I've taken the time to explore myself sexually in so many different ways, like in this version of my body, right? And it's like a constant evolution, because it's just like there are so many different things that come along with like the changes to the things that are happening. And like people always act like one of the, like, you ain't scared. And I'm never really afraid of the actual surgery. There's always a chance that you ain't gonna wake up, like it is what it is. But I feel like what I am afraid of is not knowing myself for the next year and a half or so. Like, it's just not knowing. Like, the question of, when a man asks me what I want or what I like for the first time,
You don't know anymore.
I'm genuinely not gonna know.
And that I'm in that same space, sis. I don't know anymore. And I have to I'm getting ready to be 42, and I have to relearn myself from scratch sexually.
And it's just, I think that if more women were having these conversations as trans and cis women, there would be less of this, like, trying to one up you, and you're a woman because, and you're not a woman because, and all of these. Like, I just feel like we
share so much. There's a lot of similarities in some of the pains that we experience, and which is why I think conversations like these are so important.
When they're coming from a genuine place. Yeah. Because I feel like there's a lot of these conversations that are happening amongst, trans and cis who genuinely just want to put out a good face, right? I just want to get messaging out there. We just want to make sure that you all know. And it's like, we know that there's a capacity. We know that everybody ain't out here bigoted. We know that all trans women don't hate cis. We know that. Those are not things that we need messaging for. We need solidarity work, right? We need
solidarity work and being okay with having the conversations where we can genuinely learn from one another. Because those are the conversations where we're going to find that solidarity and find, like, wow, we going through a lot of the same shit.
I don't know. It's always interesting to me, like, whenever I'm on live or like whenever I'm having conversations amongst like a majority group of cis women, I'm like, yeah, as a trans woman, girl, I'm going through da. And my cis girlfriends are like, girl, that's not a trans thing. That's a woman thing.
That I'm telling you, like, I told my girl, I said, sis, welcome to womanhood. Okay? These straight motherfuckers these straight men are trash.
Trash.
And especially when we're talking about fetishization, the way that I have no idea what the trans experience is like. But as a fat Black woman, I do know what it's like to feel like a person might be ashamed to love me in public. I do know what that feels like.
And then to not want to say it. I think that that's the thing that hurts me more so than anything.
Yeah.
It's not that you're ashamed to love me in public, but then when I ask you about it,
you want to play this game and gaslight me and act like I'm imagining it. And it's like the reality, when the only time you're intentional about seeing me is when you want to fuck. You know, I've been there, and
And you,
I ain't going back.
you know,
And that's why you know, I want to be by myself right now. And I think I'm actually like I said, it's been painful. It's been excruciating at times, but I'm thankful because I feel like the way in which I'm beginning to come to the way in which I'm beginning to come to terms with being alone, I think it is going to protect me from a lot of bullshit in the long run. And
I
I don't want to love people from wounded spaces or vice versa.
I think that that's the hardest thing to do. Like when you have to admit that to yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
think like early January, I was still in a space of like getting over my last relationship, and there was this really nice guy, super dope guy, like really nice. He wanted to take me out. He was very consistent. All of the things that I've been asking for, all of the things I've been asking for, seemingly right. And the day before one of our dates, I'm in here watching Bridgerton, goddamn Shonda, and I'm having this moment. I'm watching the show, I'm binging it, and then there's this moment of the little white girl and the black guy in the rain, and she's just telling him, I'll love you through all of that. I love you. Just love me. I'll take all of your flaws and I'll take you in and I'll just love you. And I just remember saying that same shit to a black man. That same shit. And having him look at me like, that's nice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And, looking at his current partner, who is a Latinx, little tiny little thing, like so. And in my mind, I know you ain't even got to tell. I know that if it was her who said the exact same things that I said to you that day, it would have been, let's do this, And I had to call that man because I spent like 30 minutes just crying. I paused that scene and I looked at their faces for 30 minutes and just cried about somebody else. And I said, I don't want to go into this situation with this man who is clearly invested in getting my time, my attention, and learning who I am when I'm sitting up here crying about somebody who don't even deserve the tears that I'm crying.
See, Hope, you can't internalize. This is something that I've had to learn. You can't internalize someone else not having the capacity or the bandwidth. Part of what has made this healing process so hard is because this time last year I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage, and I was very much in love with the father. And so ending the relationship with him, losing the child, and then finding out that my uterus was split in half and that I had to have a hysterectomy, the grief, it was like an avalanche of grief. And what I had to tell myself is that I can't internalize someone's inability to see me for the wholeness of who I am or love me the way I deserve to be loved. Because here's the thing, like, we could have settled. I mean, we could have did the struggle love with these motherfuckers. We could have did that. And the thing about it is, Hope, like, you are such a light. You are a light. And so am I. And what I've learned is that, when your light shines bright, sometimes it attracts bugs. What happens on a hot summer night when you go out on the porch and turn the light on? There's bugs everywhere.
Mm.
And so our responsibility to ourselves, when you know that you are a light in this world, our responsibility is to figure out how to discern who's showing up to feed the fire and who's just showing up to get warm.
Mm.
And you just know, and I know it's easier said than done, but I really want you to sit with this. Him not being able to love you the way you deserve, it has nothing to do with you. And there's somebody out there for you, sis.
I've been able to. I think I'm at a point now where I'm able to say that and honestly mean it.
Seriously, it's just like you're not. Like somebody had to tell me, like, sis, you think you basic? You really think you gonna like? So you think you gonna settle with a basic nigga? Like that's what you thought was gonna happen? Like you're not basic. The person for you, God is working on them, cause they shit got to be right.
Right.
Inside out. Like we've ascended too high spiritually already to go back to certain shit. So the person has to be right. And the reality is we're old souls. The work that we've done, most people in our age group, they not there yet.
No.
They got to catch up to us, sis. So it's not you. And the work that you're doing for Black people, for trans people, like there's a purpose on your life. And sometimes when there's a purpose on your life, you got to be by yourself for a minute. Cause I know me, like, girl, when I'm in love, bitch, listen.
For going
I'm cooking shrimp and grits on Sunday, naked. I'm fucking all day, like I'm singing all Gladys Knight songs because I was gargling dick the night before. Like it's like, you know how we are. We have to. This is the season where we got to focus on ourselves. We can't be in that space right now. You know what I mean? So I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna do the work right now so that I can have my little garden and my library and grow my own vegetables and grow my weed and have sex all day when it's time.
Because that's really all it boils down to.
Yeah, but you are worthy. You are enough. And it's not you if somebody ain't capable.
I've definitely made with that. I still have my shady moments where I'm like,
yeah, because you're human.
right. And I told like, you know, I'm human, so every now and then, you know, when I see a little Latina person, I might throw a shot or two, but you know,
right.
It's all out of love. It's all out of love every now and then.
Well, you know, we gotta do some healing work, you know, with the anti-Blackness that permeates Latin communities. We got to do some healing work there too. So
there's a bunch of that. Yeah. I like to try not to see it as infiltration. But it's one of those things where when I was younger, I remember my mother used to say some of the most, like, some things that my mom used to say as a Black woman. Oh, that's so ignorant, because I wasn't, and I didn't get it. Like, I didn't get why she was so impressed when we would go to the flea market and it would be like a Cuban woman with a Black man. I was like, girl, why? They love each other. What's the problem? Mm-hmm. But now, as a Black woman, I'm like, oh, this was the problem. This was the problem, you know. And it's one of those things where you'll never know until you know. Mm-hmm. And now, like when I go back to those moments where I would question my mother and I would debate her on, like, you know, love and infiltration and what that looked like, and, you know, how people should be able to do what they want to do, I had to apologize in some of those conversations from afar, because I'm like, now I see.
Isn't it interesting how you live long enough and then you understand some of the shit your mom was on? Because my mom was always over militant as fuck.
Same.
I feel like I'm turning into her sometimes, but now that I understand how colorism operates, because like in my family, I'm the brownie. Like everybody, high yellow, red bone. Like I'm the darkest one. You know. So my mom, she was hyper aware of colorism and how, like, she purposely didn't date certain people if she felt like they were trying to holler at her because they had some kind of, you know, where they only preferred light-skinned girls. My mama hated that shit. She hated that. She hated that all the Black Panther wives was light-skinned. She hated that shit. She like, and these the woke niggas. And they not even loving chocolate women. Like, what the fuck? You know? So my mom, like, I never, when I was younger, I'm like, dang, why she so hard? Like, why, you know, and she was always really, because I was the brownie in the family, she was always really protective of how people frame their language when talking about, when they would compliment my sister's beauty, you know, because my sister's lighter than me, you know, and thinner. And she was protective of some of that language, you know, like she was protective of me in that regard. And I didn't get it. Now that I'm older and I see how we struggle as a community with colorism, I'm like, okay. In her own way, she was overcompensating because not enough, you know, women who benefit from that privilege speak up.
Right.
You know?
There aren't. But and I think that oftentimes when you call it out, they I think a lot of the times they're offended because it's just like, oh shit, I do. But I didn't want you to tell everybody. You know, it's one of those things where it's just like, I think for a lot of them, it's their first reckoning with it. Mm-hmm. And then, but you ain't have to tell everybody though. Like I needed time to sit with this. Like, give me a minute. You know, before I start advocating, I needed a minute to just sit in this because I didn't realize that I had played a part. Oh shit, my bad. You know, and I find myself in spaces where it's okay to have the my bad moment in public.
Yes. You know what? I was just telling someone it's okay to say, you know what? I changed my mind. My perspective on that has evolved a little bit and I changed my mind. My bad.
I do it all the time.
Same.
All the time.
There's no shame in that. And we should actually normalize it. You know, because
first of all, if you're growing, if you're growing and you're doing the research, then your opinion should constantly change. They should change with the research. They should change. They should change with experience. If you are completely stagnant, if you are the same person that I met 10 years ago, when I meet you 10 years from now,
something wrong.
It's likely that we have nothing. We have nothing to talk about because we're really at two different. We're always going to be on different pages, but we should at least be in the same book at some point. And I just feel like if I can constantly go back to your pages or to your book and the same chapter over and over and over again, then it's not worth purchasing because I already know how it ends.
Right. Right. So yeah, normalize saying, you know what, my perspective has evolved. I changed my mind.
I've grown.
I apologize. I was wrong.
Oh, but see, you added a level. The apology. People don't like giving apologies.
And you gotta be able to do that. You know what I mean? You have to be able to own your shit. You know, like I've had to apologize to people because when they met me, they thought I was a bitch. You know what? I had to be like, you know what? I was in a very broken space after American Idol. Experiencing that kind of public humiliation at such a young age, that shit fucked me up. So I probably was in a bitchy space in that moment, and I apologize. You just gotta own your shit. It is what it is.
And be done.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna
go to the next lesson.
I think that that's the thing too, is that also like, we don't know how to apologize and also be done, right? Like
yeah, because the reality is sometimes you're gonna apologize and people still ain't gonna fuck with you, and that's okay. That's all right. You did what you were supposed to do. Because there's some people who apology I had to accept, and I still ain't gonna fuck with them.
And I'm still not.
That's life.
But I acknowledge that the apology was given.
Yep.
Also acknowledge that it's not what I needed to feed my soul in order to be able to deal with you. And so it was given, it was accepted, and now we're both going to be able to move on.
Yeah.
It might not be in the way that you wanted us to, but it's in the way that it is of us to be able to continue to move on without crossing paths and whacking each other in the head. Because otherwise, that's what it's going to turn into. And so the apology will be for not.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't like living in spaces where, you know, there's another issue and now we feel like we have to return back to the way that things were. It's like, I feel like sometimes there can be acknowledgement of the fact that I am sorry for what happened, but I'm not going to change who I am. And so now you have the choice to decide whether or not you're going to fuck with me or not, because it's going to happen again and there will be another apology, but I'm still going to be the same bitch after that.
Yeah.
And we both have to acknowledge what relationship this is going to be. And so if that's not going to work for you, if you're not going to be okay with the fact that every 5 years, every 6 months, every 2 weeks, I'm going to have to apologize for the person that I am, then this doesn't need to work out. And it doesn't mean that we can't respect each other. It just means that we might not need to be in the same spaces long enough for those things to happen.
Right. Right.
And that should be okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the most cliche topic. I know you get it all the time, but as a theater head, I have to ask. Rent. How was that? What was the experience like?
That was a life changing. That show saved my life. Because, you know, when when everything happened with me leaving American Idol, I didn't, you know, I lost a lot of my hope. You know, like that was like, oh wow, this industry is really okay. Wow. You know, and I really didn't know, I just didn't know what was going to be next. And then someone who worked for Simon called me and was like, did you audition for Rent before you came on the show? And I was like, yeah. She was like, the casting people have been calling our office that they want you to come to New York to do a callback. And I was like, really? And I went to New York and I sang Seasons of Love. And I flew back to LA on like, I think it was Friday. And then they called me, like I had a message when I landed that I had got the part. And I flew back to New York that following week. It was only supposed to be a 6-month contract. I ended up being in the show for 4 years. And I needed that because that was like a moment that taught me faith and taught me surrender and the belief that, you know what, this is going to be a crazy fucking journey, but you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And I made lifelong friends in that show. I lost people. It was really a life-changing experience. And I living in New York when it was fun. New York was fun then. Oh my God. We had good times. The Lion King was still at the theater on 42nd Street, and their stage door was right across the street from our theater. So the Rent and the Lion King squad, we used to get drunk at the same bar after the shows. So much fun, so many good times. And there was a gay club, there was a gay bar called XL in Chelsea. And me and my band used to do a cabaret there on Monday nights because that was the night that Broadway was dark. Rent wasn't dark on Mondays, but I would literally rush from doing my show at Rent on Monday and rush down to Chelsea and sing with my band. And yeah, it was a good time.
I love it. Just like seeing some of the older performances and like just watching you and like everybody, like, you know, for me, those are iconic moments. And when I started to like meet people when I was like trying to do my Rent journey and they was telling me like, bitch, Angel is this big and you are 270 pounds.
And you know what, there was a, I don't know if you know Saquon. She played Aida. She's been in a bunch of shows and she was also on Scandal and a bunch of TV shows. But Saquon, you know, she's your complexion, beautiful girl, stacked. That body is crazy. And she played Mimi. And they were always giving her shit, you know, as if Afro Latinas don't exist. You know what I mean? So I hate hearing that, you know, and I hope that Bernie Telsey casting is changing in that regard, because I do feel like we missed out on some good angels and some good Mimis because of colorism or body type discrimination. I definitely do believe that.
There was I know right before COVID, my friend Ladarian, who I went to school with, I was his angel when we were, and he was like, yo, we're doing the internet, we're coming back to York. And when we get there, I've already been putting in good words. You got to. I was like, I'm not gonna get that part. Like, I'm too dark for that part. And he was like, Hope. But I'm just like, let's not act like we don't know what that gets. And now that it's over, whatever, like him and I have still been kind of talking about it. He's just like, when they jump this back off, you need to be in.
You should. I really hope that they have to, especially
They,
now after everything. They have
yeah.
to. So you
Yeah.
should. I agree.
I think that that'll be my first major audition post school. Honestly, like I have been so focused on D&I and like educating people on trans issues and educating white folks on blackness that I'm just like, I went to school and I did all of this shit and I'm not using it. And I just feel like for so long I was afraid to use it or to audition. I was like, I don't want people to feel like I've been climbing this activism train for a moment in the spotlight. And it's just like, but if you look at my background, I went to school for this. This was my passion. Everything else, I felt like
Well,
everything else.
I feel like activism is a part. It should be a part of an artist's journey. Like, what are you doing?
What do you really stand for when you're not on this stage? What are your ideals? And
Yeah, like I mean, Nina Simone said that. Like that's our responsibility as artists. It is, especially when you Black.
mm,
So I feel like because you've been focused on activism, that doesn't. If anything, it should make you want to pursue your art even more. You know.
it has. So
Good.
I'm really I'm excited about it. And like just hearing when I look back at the videos, when I look back at everything, when I see the way that the world is evolving and the way that we are playing with art, right? Having a Black trans woman, in Rocky Horror Picture Show, I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay, and so I definitely
Too. I love that show.
look here. It was my like fourth grade or third grade drama teacher. I'll never forget her, Miss Ryu. And I remember she was always trying to like covertly teach me things about myself before I knew things about myself. And so she would play the Time Warp, but she couldn't play Sweet Transvestite, obviously, to third
Right.
graders. But one day she like when the class was over, she was like, do you have a couple minutes? And I was like, yeah, it's just lunch. And she played it for me, and I was like, who is this creature? Because she would always stop it before Frank and Fred get off of the elevator.
Right.
So we never got to see who was wearing shoes. And I was like, who is this creature?
Yeah.
And it's like when I look back at it now, I'm like, okay, I see what you were doing, sis. I see what you were trying to show. But I mean, it's so beautiful and it's so amazing. And to talk to somebody who had such an amazing experience and like who did end up doing that work for so long, it's like, it's always going to be a stamp in the mind. And like, I know that you're like into teaching. I know that you're getting your degrees and things, but do you ever foresee yourself going back to the stage and like?
Yeah, definitely. Soon as it opens back up, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited because I'm just like, as soon as it opened back up and all the parts that I'm thinking, I'm like, ooh. So you should audition for it. It's gonna be real sad because you're gonna have to close your inbox to me. Like, okay, hope I mute you for a couple of days because you're not about to keep telling me which parts I should audition for. That's what you're not about to do, sis. You're not gonna keep me out. But it's a place of love, and I will accept my blocking. I will accept my. I will accept with grace. I really will. Sure will.
Girl, yeah, as soon as it opens up, yeah, you definitely need to audition for Rent and Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
If they revive it ever. And I definitely, I miss the stage, so I actually started, like people have been reaching out to me to perform for like their virtual events, but their budgets are kind of like what I used to get paid for the live ones. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm, figuring out how to get this virtual performance thing together and, working on that in the meantime. I just turned one of my closets into a little vocal booth so I can record vocals from home. So
Love it. I literally just let go of I had to let go of a virtual performance of For Colored Girls because of a better opportunity that I got, and I've been praying for this other opportunity, so I was like, okay, I see how you working, God, and you trying to make me a responsible human being. But I was just, I was thankful that I even got cast because there were so many amazing. I say there were some amazing women audition for that production, and I can't wait to see it. They are going to premiere it on the 30th of this month, so I can't wait.
Where is it going to be?
They're going to do it on Clubhouse, so they're going
Okay.
to do the same way that they did the Lion King. They're going to do that
I think
rendition.
there was a Clubhouse Dreamgirls too.
There's a Clubhouse Dreamgirls that just premiered, I think, at the beginning of this week.
Okay.
And that rave reviews, that was really great. Like, they've been doing a lot of stuff. The producers on there are like Broadway, like the people who can't work because Broadway is shut down are going to Clubhouse and creating these major productions. And so I'm really about it.
That's cool.
And I was excited, like, even though I had to drop because I wanted to be responsible and I wanted to, make sure that the things that I was asking for and the universe was giving to me, that I was, being receptive to them. But that just kind of put me back into my frame of like, you know what, you can do this, go audition, like, make this happen. So it's a whole thing. I wanted to ask, because I think that one of the things that I always ask people is like, what is that thing that you want everybody to know, right? Like, what is that you want everybody to know, not just about yourself, but just about the journey that it took you to get to where you are, like, the person that we now know and love is like Frenchie Davis, right? Like, what is it that you want people to know about you that they often don't get a chance to hear?
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like I share so much they probably know. That it, because people always compliment me on like my confidence, or the way how I seem so comfortable in my skin. Just know it took a lot of work to get there. It took a lot of work to get there.
I think whenever I hear people say that, because one cool thing that they know is that, like, I'm an open book, but that book be so closed. Like, people do not. I'm an open book, but I rip things out, and it's one of those things where I resonate with that a lot, because it's just like when you see the sleigh on the gram, or when you showcase my happy moments on the gram, or when you see the amazing opportunity, like, don't ever think that those things were given to me. I had to bust my ass. I had to, work 10 times as hard. Like, I had to do all of the things, right, before you got that announcement. So all you saw was the announcement, the thing, the company, right? But there was 3 months of me sending in PowerPoints that were unnecessary. There were months doing all of this extra work that a white person wouldn't have had to do. Like, I had to lose weight. Like, there were so many of the things that, like, I had to do to get there that, like, I don't ever want people to take for granted. So I resonate with that, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on, giving people everything you gave us. There were definitely some nuggets in there. And thank you for sharing and just being really helpful about it. And I just want you to tell the people what you have coming up, if you have anything coming up, if you're planning on virtual, let them know. And also for the folks who don't know, all you talking up in here. Okay. For the folks who don't know, tell them where to find you and how they can connect with you. And, for all the casting directors.
So I'm definitely on Instagram at Frenchie Davis. I'm on Facebook talking shit. And I had just started my YouTube channel and started doing my little show right before, like, all the feminine health issues happened. So now that I'm in a more healed space, I will be resuming shooting episodes for the YouTube channel as well. And just I have a virtual concert coming up. It's going to be on April 24th, but I'll be posting it. I'll be posting all the information. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah. And my birthday is May 7th. I'll be 42.
Okay. Look here. Come on. Everybody's birthday coming up. My friend just called me yesterday to remind me that her birthday on Tuesday. She was like, just so you know, Tuesday.
Right.
Just FYI. Just so you, no pressure, but Tuesday is my birthday. And I'm like, okay, girl, I got you. Because that's what people look
Right.
here. I don't remember your birthday unless you are on social media just pubbing it. So feel free to call.
Yes.
But thank y'all
so much for having me, Hope. I love you. And I'm so proud of everything that you're doing.
Look here. I'm here for it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spilling. Thank you for joining. And thank all of y'all nosy bitches for listening to this conversation. And like I said, every time, y'all, peace, love, and hope. And I will see y'all on the next episode of Can We Talk with Hope Giselle. Bye.
Bye.